Well, the Reddit army is at it again. It's called the Reddit Rebellion. The mission GameStop. I told you what happened with it today. Just an extraordinary volatility. Let's bring our panel back in to discuss this. And I'll start with you, Bill. I don't know if you trade stocks. You look like somebody who may have in the past, which is why you're doing radio full time. And
right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. There are many ways to lose money. I learned that myself. Decades ago, I traded options and learned all about how to lose money. Yeah. And you can and will, folks, most likely. Not saying you will every time, because I made some money too. But it can be a tough environment. So we'll talk more, but just your general observation over this Reddit rebellion and the responses.
Well, Bob, we didn't lose, we learned. Let's just put the positive spin, all right? We learned. So here's the reality that there's a cry from the establishment, from these hedge fund managers, et cetera, who are betting themselves. They're taking risks, and they have tremendous rewards. I don't think there's anyone out there who is a day trader to try to supplement their income, or they're hoping that they get a little edge in their 401k, et cetera, if they're managing their own money. The reality is that it's risk on both sides. The real crime here is that there were restrictions put in place. The minute the little guy breaks out and gets a small edge, they shut them down. I think it is absolutely criminal what happened. I can't believe I'm sitting here today on Newsmax agreeing with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. But look, she's right. I mean, she's right. And she's coming at it from the perspective of, when are these invisible corporations where you don't elect their boards, et cetera, when are they going to be held accountable for the pain and suffering that they are causing the average person out there? Nobody should have lost because the stock price dropped a couple hundred points because they restricted trading.
Yeah, and to fill in some of the blanks here, if anybody isn't familiar, basically you have these Reddit forums. People are going there learning where small investors, traders, are going to put their money to drive out some hedge funds who are short stock, betting it to go down. And then those hedge funds who are short end up having to buy back in, because that's how it works, and it drives up the price of the stock. And so some people are saying, well, that's like getting a gang and going after certain investors. And what Bill is saying is, yeah, well, if you can't stand the heat, get out. These small investors have a right to do that. Stacy, what are your thoughts?
So this is a case of, it's funny, the app they're using is called Robinhood, because the activities they're taking are very much like the cartoon movie. I love it when he's like screaming, double the taxes, triple the taxes, as King John having a fit for his not listening and doing what he tells him to do. This is similar to that, because when you talk about shorting the stocks, first of all, the margin that you have to have in your brokerage account is so large that most people who invest on a regular basis still don't have enough money to do this activity. So these little people have gotten into a Reddit group, and they are very strong because of their numbers. And they've said, we don't need a large margin to short. We can look at what you're doing online, and we can short you. You're shorting a company that we love that's struggling because of the pandemic. People in that Reddit group love GameStop, because if they're anything like our family, we should have stock in GameStop, because we've sold them so many Nintendo Game Boys, DSs, DSIs, and every other version of the DS.
Yeah.
We bought so many games there, sold so many movies there. We used to be there on a weekly basis. It was church and GameStop for us for a few years there with 3 kids. All of our kids are really close together. So what they did was they took advantage of what is now the information marketplace. You have your phone, then you have access to what everyone is doing. You just watch it, and you don't have to be smart. 5th grade math, you just have to know what a short is and what a put is and what a call is.
Yeah.
Once you've got that knowledge, you can do anything. And they've proven that it's okay for the little guy to bet against the big guy who's betting against the market, which is in part these companies that we all have such a familiar relationship with. I don't find myself shocked when I agree with AOC, broken clock syndrome. She can be right like twice a day.
Sometimes, yes. And what people are doing is you can buy call options fairly cheaply. Shorting tends to be more expensive and way more risky, because the stock, as they go up, you lose money. Stocks can go up an infinite amount. You can lose an infinite amount of money. You buy a call option, the worst you could lose is the price of the option itself. So they're piling in on companies that have a lot of people shorting them and forcing them to buy it back in because of how it works. Tom, your thoughts there, because when you then go in and put the restrictions, I'm sure they're thinking, the little guy here, he doesn't understand this. He's going to end up on the south side of this. But a lot of people have been upset today that they couldn't get in and make their trades.
You look at the evolution of the market over the last 50 years and computer sell-offs, computer buyings. Who gets to do that? It's not the average guy, right? So the big guys on Wall Street have been driving the market in the direction they would like. The big investment houses were the beneficiaries of QE. I don't know what number we're on, that kind of thing. So this is an interesting moment in time where the little guy whipsaws the market for a period of time. Nevertheless, as someone who does business shows regularly, if you're a small investor, you need to be very careful in the months ahead. You have to be very selective with your stock purchases.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Tom. I think people understanding what's going on, it may be a separate issue from people participating in what's going on. Because if you put your money down and you get into this, you may lose your money. And these people play for real. And it's not a game. You might think it's a game, but it's not. Because what happened to the stock today with GameStop, perfect example, goes up to 483, then down to 112. Boom. And then it closed at 2-something.
Well, isn't part of the... Well, I was going to say, isn't part of the reason that happened, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that they stopped allowing these traders to participate. The regular guy couldn't participate anymore.
They made them close out their positions.
Well, Robinhood, the Robinhood app froze them out. They could sell, but they couldn't buy.
They had to close out their positions.
Which is a total distortion of the market and winds up hurting some people. You know, if you're in the market, you better be able to lose that money. This can't be money that's dear to you. And especially as we head into the Biden administration, where there's going to be sectors of the market like energy and healthcare, which are subject to a lot of regulation. You have to be very careful. I have one of the highest cash positions I've had in a decade because there's uncertainty right now.
Yeah.
Just real quick, Bob, they talk about manipulating the market from the Reddit perspective. I mean, the big guys have been manipulating the market forever, and there's a big difference between stopping trading because there's a terror attack or something awful is happening and everyone is collapsing versus stopping trading because the rich 100-millionaire hedge fund managers are losing their shirt because they made the wrong bet. Two completely different things. I hope there's a lawsuit.
And that may result in more regulation. Yeah. What he just described could well result in more regulation because you shouldn't be able to tip the scales as he just described in an open market or even whatever, NASDAQ or Dow Jones rules should not allow that.
Yeah, and to give it another example.
As Bob was saying earlier, if you're looking at the Biden administration and 40 executive orders in the first week of he's just barely landed there and his pen is probably out of ink. What you should be doing is before you get in on the Reddit investing, make sure you've paid down your bills. Make sure you have an emergency fund. Make sure you have some food and water stored at home per FDA regulations, Department of Homeland Security. They have wonderful websites that can tell you 3 days, a week, 90 days of worth of food and water just in case of an emergency. And then once you have all that under your belt, if you want to play around on Reddit, get in while you can because it looks like it's going to be regulated. And I hate that.
Yeah. And by the way, folks, when you do make money, you got to pay taxes on it. So hopefully that'll be the problem, and then you can pay taxes on it. But it's an interesting thing. We're talking about today, not because we're a business show, but because you walk anywhere today, people are talking about GameStop. And it goes beyond that. Costs, for an example. They make headphones. They were up 1,600% in 3 days. That's not normal. And this is the point, folks. It's not based on the fundamentals. It's not based on earnings. So if you do get involved, be very careful. Want to make that clear.
But why are these, I know we're out of time, but why are these hedge fund operators betting against companies?
Well,
betting against the little guy.
Isn't that a good question?
Yeah.
To make money. They're all doing everything to make money.
Awful.
So it's a way to make money because these are struggling companies, so they're shorting the stock. And they're getting driven out by these people picking the stocks to drive them up. So
those prices haven't been based on
fundamentals for a long time. And the money that goes into the market to buy it doesn't go to the company.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I can't ignore our producer any longer. I've got to go. And what for? So I can ask people to watch us when they're out and about. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back in just a second.